Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the last session of the 16th edition of AKLF 2025. May we put our hands together, please, for the last session of the AKLF 2025. We are here with Table Talk, and I would request our esteemed delegates to kindly unwrap the books and officially launch the book by Ms. Sunita Kohli, The India Cookbook, From the Table of My Friends. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a huge round of applause for them.
No. Okay, let's. No, we do this. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah? ঠিক আছে? Should we stand? Yeah, that's a good. এখানে?
May we have a huge round of applause, please? Thank you.
What a lovely cover. Yes. Thank you. Just taken Feast of Roses. Yeah.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Almost become good night. Lovely to be the concluding session here at AKLF this year. And we're talking about something that everybody cannot do without, is fascinated by. And we have someone with us. It looks beautiful. You really want to open this book and read what's inside. She is somebody who you wouldn't have really associated with food. She's been into designing, interior designing, the first interior designer to get a Padma Shri. She has been associated with heritage venues such as Rashtrapati Bhavan, which she's redone, a whole lot of other heritage venues, Oberoi hotels in Egypt and otherwise. And we really want to know, I think, what is it that made her want to get into writing a book, and that too about food and recipes. So Sunita, could we start from there?
I have specialized in having an unplanned career in design, but which was now 54 years ago. And in a similar fashion, this has also been, the cookbooks have been unplanned, totally unplanned, in fact. And because I was in the midst of, I am still in the midst of writing a very large art book on World Heritage Sites in India. And my mother is really the cookbook author. And the first book that she had written, which has a long title called Continental Cuisine for the Indian Palate, which actually only means Anglo-Indian food, or what we used to call Angrezi Khana in Lucknow. So that book was hugely popular. She had 3 editions of it, all sold out. And then she had a second book which she was working on with Bloomsbury, and then something happened with the commissioning editor, and that book went into cold storage. So I asked my editor at Aleph, who are my publishers, Aleph Book Company, if they would consider telling me about another publisher. And David Devidar immediately said, Sunita, we don't do cookbooks. I said, no, I didn't think that you should do a cookbook, but if you could suggest one for my mother's recipes. And to cut a long story short, he said, I'll get back to you in 2 days. And I'm so happy that he did, because he said, we will do your mother's book on the condition that you co-author it with her, and that you write a 10,000-word essay on your parents' story, and that we don't want 345 recipes, we only want 150. So I thought, ye to kitni aasan cheez hai, because as I said, I became an accidental designer. The discipline I studied is really English literature, BA honors from Delhi, a master's from Lucknow University, and then I worked on a PhD on Christopher Marlowe, which I didn't finish, and now I don't think I can ever finish, because Marlowe and design, etc., have a long separated history. So I thought, you know, I'll just abstract 150 recipes from my mother's 345, which she'd done. And since I'm so Inglit, what is 10,000 words? I'm used to submitting essays. So but it became the most difficult 3 months of my life. I had to take off from my studio, which is run by my daughter, who's an architect. And she said, Mother, I'm giving you this leave only because it's my grandmother's book. So otherwise, you know, I'm granting you this leave. In any case, it became 12 hours of working for 3 months, including Sundays. And then this book came out, which is my first cookbook, called the Lucknow Cookbook, co-authored with my mother. But I'm happy to say that when it was launched in the market, it was completely sold out in 3 weeks. Now it is in its 10th print run, and it has been declared a modern classic. So I feel so happy for my mother that this happened. Any case, that is the history of that. And then David Devidar said, now you must do a second book. So I thought the easiest way to do it is, I'm a great collector of recipes. I follow in the family tradition of my mother. So I'm a collector of recipes, and I love regional food, and I like eating food in different parts of India. And one has these friends, you know, and memories of friends are so linked to food or what one has eaten. So this book is really a consequence of that, which came out last year. Thank you.
Lovely. You know, this food is such a vital part of our intangible cultural heritage. And even UNESCO recognizes that now. So we live in a country where, as you said here in the book, it's the size of 1/3 of Europe. And we are like many countries, all the countries of Europe, that districts within each state, everybody has different styles of cooking, they have different ingredients, spices, even utensils, which are different, and that you've talked about. So I wanted to ask Usha, because let me tell you, she's a pure vegetarian, but she makes the most fantastic non-vegetarian food without tasting it. So you must tell us how that happens. Excellent meat and the rest of it. But Usha, for example, you know, in the north, we have the dum, the tandoor style of cooking. In the south, there's so much of coconut that's added to food. In the west, you know, the baituks that happen, that's a kind of getting together for food. So tell us a bit about the differences that you've noticed, because you travel all over, you eat all over, and even though you say you're not really a foodie, you're very interested in food and you notice things.
For sure. Hi everybody, namaskar, namaskaram, sat sri akal, salam alaikum. Absolutely brilliant to be here in the closing session of AKLF. Thank you so much, Anjum, and everybody here. You know, the most wonderful thing I feel like sharing with all of you is that I was here for the inauguration and I'm here for the ending. It's like the food table itself, when you start and when you end. For me, it's been really an amazing ride, which I love to share with everybody. I'm a complete 100%, 200% vegetarian now. And as time goes on, you notice I don't say as age goes on, because I don't believe in that. As the years have gone by, I've become more and more strict about my vegetarianism. But you know, I make the most amazing food. I don't have to say it any, modestly, because my children and my husband are proof to that. And it's so wonderful that I just looked into your book and there's some stuff which is there from Kottayam. Well, I come from, I'm born and brought up in Bombay. I'm a Tamil, complete Tamilian. And I'm married into Kerala and now living in Bengal. So that makes me a really, what India is all about as far as food is concerned. But my family never ever thought that I would be able to cook non-vegetarian food. but I'm really brilliant. Yeah, thank you. I
She
really
is.
feel so.
I'll
yeah.
vouch for that.
Yeah, I think, and if you feel like clapping, just clap, because that's what I live for. Yeah, and my family loves my food, and I have a black book, like a Bible, and in which I have about 18 good recipes, non-vegetarian recipes, which my aunt, that is Jani's aunt, who gave me when we got married. And I follow it. I do not innovate, because I don't know how to innovate. So if she said use 5 cloves of, yeah, I'll do it with 5, not 4, not 3, just no innovation. And 1 inch of garlic was, 1 inch of ginger was 1 inch of ginger. And, I just made my food according to that recipe which Sushila auntie taught me. And it just turned out that the fish curry that I made, or the prawn pira that I made, or the mutton that I made was, or the beef, erche
And Chimu Auntie's chicken curry.
Yeah, Chimu auntie curry, that's from here actually. But yes, I don't ever innovate. But my daughter, Anjali, used to be my taster in the beginning. But now I've realized that through the years, after she got married and she moved away, before she used to taste the salt, you see, in the food. And it's so amazing that you can really do it if you really love. I think food is all about love. I mean, that little extra that you put into the food is what makes it really so beautiful. And for me, I've really proved it way, way beyond doubt. That extra point of, little bit of love that you put, or lots of love like I used to do, and it really worked. Now I do not ask my daughter, obviously she's in Cochin, but what do I do for the salt? I just feel with all these people every day telling you what is healthy and what's not healthy. Oh, I'm so fed up of that. I really can't believe that people would, think so much about it. But in a way, it's good for everyone, but I don't follow that. But it's a good thing not to have too much salt. So it's always a little bit of salt of the earth, which we all should have in any case. But it's just been a great ride. And I really advocate this to everybody, every vegetarian person, to try their hand at being a good non-vegetarian cook, really.
I hope they're listening. And I'll vouch for that, the little bit of love for the cooking, because Usha, she didn't this year, but that was for a family reason. But every year during Christmas, she bakes cakes for her friends with a lot of love, and they're wonderful Christmas cakes.
106 cakes I bake. And now you might wonder how, Amu, that becomes 106. Well, the sanchas that we get, I do everything at home, cut the fruits and everything at home, soak it up, and then take it to the bakers. And I tell them, Bismillah karke, start your baking. It's just amazing. And all this happens in Kolkata. Really in Calcutta. I mean, a Christian feast and, festival, and Hindu, Tamil, Brahmin, with everything is so beautiful. This is the India really that we need to be back in. This is the Calcutta that I believe in, and really,
absolutely. Let's hear
this is so beautiful. So they have these sanchas in which they put the, 3 things of for 1 pound or 2 pound or whatever you're talking, and it came to, if I use 2 kilos, then it came to 13 cakes, okay? And it was just amazing. So multiply, I'm not good at multiplying. It somehow and ended up with 106. And it just went like that, because my son would order me and say, I'll pay you, I promise you I'll pay you. So thanks, Sonny. that he wants about 40 cakes, then 40 cakes go to Kottayam, then so many cakes go to Bangalore where my sister is, the other sisters are. So, baking a cake also is part of this, really.
Yeah. May I please request you, Usha ji?
To include you in the list?
No, no, I'm not suggesting anything like that. But please, please make the number 108. Okay. Because I'll tell you why. That's a number 9. And that's the magical number in architecture, because it is divisible into 3 into infinity. And that is part of Islamic architecture, and that's also very much a part of Hindu architecture. That's why you also have 108 beads on the mala Japne wali mala.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
108.
108 it will be from next
time.
year.
Wonderful. Shaun, you know, we talked about, Usha talked about, she doesn't change recipes or, you know, try and do her own thing. There's a lot said about fusion cuisine these days. Yeah, right. And also, I'd like to ask you about that and ask you about the different styles of cooking. You're here. You've been in India for ages. The different styles of cooking, the different ingredients, the different communities, what they express through cooking, because cooking really is the most intimate way that you express your culture. So talk to us about that. You're the Bangali Jamai. Yeah.
So thank you all for having me. And difficult to follow Usha, I think, in any sense of that meaning. So obviously, there's no such thing as fusion food. It doesn't exist in the world, never has existed. It's just natural progression of ingredients. And so in fact, we were having this discussion yesterday with Oinki. And obviously, if we go back in history, so let me ask you a question. What would the Bengalis do without the potato, realistically? It's not a fusion ingredient in any sense of the word. It's just an ingredient that came here many years ago
From Portugal.
and got absorbed into the culture, into the Bengali cookbook, if you like, as did a gobi, as did a capsicum. So fusion really, in my mind, doesn't really exist. If ingredients work together, then it's a new dish. It can be a new dish. It can be a great dish. So fusion, trust me, honestly, there's no such thing. I know a lot of chefs do play on the idea of fusion, but I just love to cook good food, tasty food, and that's really all that matters to me, to a certain extent. I think if I just go back to the original bit of that question, so I've spent 23 years in India, many years of my life. I have a Bengali wife who's an incredibly instinctive cook. She cooks very instinctively, a little bit of a reluctant cook, if I'm honest, but she has a great instinct for taste and smell, and she's very quick when she cooks also, which is a rarity, but that's different subject. And she doesn't really ever follow recipes. She just cooks from her head, really. Sometimes she randomly calls her mum up and asks her some questions. But I think just the love and enjoyment. So I'm not just a chef, really. I wear many hats, but I'm very much a home cook as well. And I spend almost every day of my life, particularly when I'm in Calcutta, cooking every day. And obviously, I don't follow recipes. I just look at what I have in the fridge, and I make something tasty. And it's very simple like that. All my friends would agree. Whatever I cook, it's pretty much nondescript. There's nothing traditional about it ever, rarely, if I'm honest. But when I go back to the UK every year, if I go back there for 2 weeks, I probably spend 10 days of those 2 weeks cooking biryani on request from many, many people. Calcutta-style biryani with the aloo, with the egg and everything. So I always talk about food as being the most spoken language in the world. And I really, truly believe that. I think dancers would say dance is the most important thing. Singers would say singing is the most important thing. But I think food is something that's incredibly, we need to, for sustenance.
Unifying. It unifies people.
Yeah, it's just something that we need for sustenance. So I also categorize food in many different senses. There's sustenance food that we have to have. There's food that we'd probably eat on a daily basis. There's special occasion food. There's very special occasion food. And I think coming back to this book, it's the first time I've looked at it. There's lots of recipes from all your friends, I'm guessing. There's lots of, which is actually a really nice way to put a recipe book together, I think. But yeah, just a joy of cooking. And if you think something doesn't work with something, just give it a try. It might work. You can decide that amongst yourselves. Really.
Thank you, Shaun. I just want to say something. So does Sunita. You mentioned the Calcutta biryani and the potato. I think I see Shahenshah there. And I want to say that people think the potato was added because Nawab Wajid Ali Shah had run out of money. But actually, a potato was very expensive then, came in from Portugal.
Yes, it was much more expensive. So it was an exotic item that people added to the biryani to make it more
You
exotic.
wanted to say something about the biryani.
I'm so happy to see Shahenshah Mirza here because the last time when I was at AKLF, which was 7 years ago, was for the launch of the Lucknow Cookbook.
Okay.
And I didn't know who the panel would be, so there was Dr. Pushpesh Pant, my mother, myself, and Shahenshah Mirza, who I met for the first time. And of course, I did tell him then, but I may stand to be corrected, is that in Lucknow, you would not be caught dead adding a potato to a biryani. And I think I make a good Lucknowi biryani, probably the best in Delhi. But you know, I can't say for in Lucknow, but in Delhi, I make a good biryani.
So
Okay,
sorry.
yes, you've tried that.
So I'll always say that. So I'll always look at a Calcutta biryani much more as a Persian pulao than any other biryani in the country. I don't really recognize it as a biryani in any sense, really. It's white. It's a white stock and very little spice-based biryani. It's purely white. There might be a little bit of clove, a little bit of cardamom, a little bit of cinnamon, but that's really all there is in there, really. And the yakni. So in many ways, it's much more like a Persian pulao, where you would find potatoes sometimes, and you will find eggs for sure.
Sunita, I want to ask you something about the different influences of food. You've mentioned that in this book. We've had people coming in from Turkey, from Persia, from Central Asia, and a lot of it had to do with the Silk Route, the influences that came in. So I'd like you to talk to us a bit about those influences and how they manifested in our food. That's number one. And also tell us a bit about the basic premise of this book, that food is something that brings out wonderful memories. It's food is a matter of sharing, of chatting, talking, getting to know people, spending time with friends, and you've got recipes from friends. So those two things.
Well, you know, I have always considered food a deeply civilizational aspect of any country. And certainly in a country like ours, with its multiplicity of ethnicities, with its multiplicity of perspectives, food is such an important part of that part of our civilization. And that is why I was very pleased to do this book, because I have friends, many of whom actually are authors themselves and are cookbook writers, and they follow various disciplines. And I mean, from Calcutta, there's Rakhi Sarkar, who runs an art gallery. There's Sunita Kumar, I mean, such a well-known hostess who does the best, souffles that I have ever had. And so similarly, there's Sagrika Ghosh, there's Dr. Reba Som, there are plenty of...
That was a really unusual one. We all have Lao Chingri, but she's done Badha Kopi Chingri, Reba Di.
Yes. So it was wonderful to receive these recipes, to try them out. But I have to say that most of the recipes in this book are what I've already had in their homes. So it was a question of just asking them. And my friends have been so generous. But food is such an integral part of intangible heritage. And as you rightly pointed out, and which I pointed out in the introduction to the book, that it is now recognized by UNESCO as such. But I also hope that in a country as vast as ours, many dishes will be part of UNESCO's intangible heritage, the slate that they have put together. Because, for instance, if they have Moroccan couscous, can you imagine what we have that we do with wheat and rice, which is integral to different regions? So there's so much that, and I hope, and this is not, this book is not meant to be a panoramic view of Indian cuisine. These are just recipes from friends, yes, north, south, east, west, central, and also subcontinental India. Because as we must remember, India has had 5 partitions. So just because you hive off a part of India doesn't mean that it is still not a part of subcontinental India. And so food as like art and ideas travel across what are really very recent political boundaries. So this book also captures that and how food traveled along the spice routes, and therefore we have the wonderful spices. So if you have kebabs in Afghanistan, from where really the kebabs to Lucknow came, but what made them so different is the spices that came from South India. If we have a yogurt soup in Lucknow, which we thought was very Lucknowi, to have garam dahi ka shorba in the winter, then I realized when I started going to Turkey, it's purely Turkish, and it's just because it traveled down all the way along these routes where also ideas traveled and art traveled, and which changed, which metamorphosed into something else. So, so I found that no, it's not a Lucknowi speciality at all. It has come from somewhere else. So this book is really about, and both these books, because this book goes from the microcosmic world of Lucknow, and this book goes to the macrocosmic world of India. And I mean, I don't know how far I've succeeded, but this was the attempt.
You want to read a para from there?
Okay.
You want to read something from there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll read a short paragraph from. Maybe I'll read a short paragraph from both, because these books are a continuation, and this is the second book. The India Cookbook is the second of what will definitely be my last book, which is the International Cookbook at Brunch. So I'm not going to be persuaded by Alif or anybody else to do another book after this. So let me read. So as I said, you know, I had to, for this book to be published, the Lucknow Cookbook, I had to write 10,000 words between my parents' story, which I had titled Vatan Lost and Vatan Found. As I told you, I'm Inglet, so it had to be Miltonian, from Paradise Lost and Paradise Found, from Lahore to Lucknow. And I had to write a note about the book. So the last para of the note about this book and why I had written it. And I said, David Lowenthal, the American historian, renowned for his work on heritage and spatial concepts of the past and the future, had famously pronounced that the past is a foreign country. This I have to explain. My entire family comes from what is now, comes from undivided India, from what is now Pakistan. I was born in Lahore. My mother comes from Quetta. My father from Gujranwala, though he's originally a Rajput from Jaisalmer. And so therefore, the past is a foreign country. This cookbook, although palpable with nostalgia, selectively recaptures events and objects from the past that are a part of the intangible heritage of food and familial memories of gentler times. These are collective memories that conserve a sense of continuity, of belonging, and of being rooted. I believe food engenders social and family harmony. It anchors us and connects us to the past, grounds us in the present, and gives us a sense of identity and belonging. Our personal histories define us, and I have chosen to define this partly through Lucknow's food traditions. The preparation of food is learnt by observation. It is a process of osmosis. In our family, all 4 generations are reasonably good cooks. This book documents the recipes that we have learned from my mother and from my many friends in Lucknow. And one can certainly cook from this book, but one can also read through the recipes to get a glimpse of Lucknowi culture and of the lives behind these recipes. This is a book for cooks and for armchair cooks, because for people who really love food, it is a lens through which to view this particular world. And that was something that was said, and then I continue in the introduction in the India Cookbook. And here actually I quote a friend, Nita Khanna, who's sitting in the audience and who's also a contributor to the book. And Nita Khanna had opined that food in India is a religion, thank you, an identity, a cultural and social signifier beyond the pale of our quest for unity in diversity. This often used phrase, fasting and feasting, routinely surfaces as a popular ordering principle for a vast and seemingly disparate panoply of taste preferences and food choices. Most communal fasts of all religions in India are followed by a festive feast. And so there are many recipes in this book that are part of when you abstain from food, what you eat, and also from when you feast after a fast, what do you eat? And this, of course, through generous contribution of friends.
Usha, you know, we have in India, let's say one item, rice, which is cooked in I don't know how many different ways. You have a pilau, a biryani, bhat, khichdi. Khichdi itself is cooked in every part of the country in a different way. You had the British kechri. So tell us a bit about, you know, these items, flatbread, rice, the different variations, and also what is special for you about food and sharing with friends. And I'm saying that because I've had experiences with Usha. There was this really dynamite papad that she used to have, sabudana. It was made with green and red chilies, and we both loved it. So we were sitting there on her bed, crying, weeping, and really talking about life and what she wants to do. And out of that came your acting on stage while we were still crying. So tell us about some of your food memories and about the fact that one item can have so many different manifestations.
So many, really. Rice is something it's a dynamic thing, I think. Everywhere they have different preparations of it. And I think the more simple it is, the more tasty it gets, really. And I don't know if it's something to do with the fact that I come from a very, very middle class background. You know, being a South Indian and living in Bombay, I mean, I think many of the South Indians would agree with me. The one thing I wanted to talk about today was definitely the fact that as a South Indian, we never knew what was paneer. I mean, how many South Indians, Raman, I know you. I didn't. Amu, did you know when you were growing up? No, because we never had paneer. Can you believe that?
But there's a reason for that, which is geological, which we won't get into now.
Whatever the reason, I know it's only when I started earning after coming to Trinkas and you know, getting paid, that I was actually offered a paneer tikka. I mean cutlet, and I couldn't believe that it was so tasty. Now paneer has, everybody cooks it so differently, just like rice itself. And you spoke about the, actually we call it vadam, and it's made out of sago, javarshit vadam. Now that is the one that you cry when you have, it's full of chilies and it's really wonderful. You make it like any other papad, and you know, you can make it with rice papad as well. And you, you know, drop it into little rounds and, you know, put it in the sun to dry, and then you get it out. And today, of course, everything is microwaved, so there's no oil and things like that. But paneer and rice, especially paneer, is something of really an amazing thing for me, an eye-opener, because in so many places, like even in Bengal, you don't have a meal, I mean, you know, a really good vegetarian meal. They don't talk so much about the vegetable, That's it. You know, they say, what do you say? আজকে কি দেবে খাবার? ডাল আছে, ভাত আছে, পাপড় আছে, পনি আছে, পনি? Poni, that's paneer, yeah. You know, I mean, it's almost considered a vegetable, you know, like we have beans thoran or cabbage thoran or, you know, the different kinds of just ordinary things. But that doesn't feature in over here. And it's just amazing how differently rice, as you said, and paneer can be cooked in so many different ways. I know it doesn't have any place in a South Indian menu every day. No.
Can I just
Lovely.
follow on with
I
that?
was coming to you.
So,
Yeah.
so I've lived here for 23 years. Calcutta is very much my home. I've lived a Bengali lifestyle, almost to a certain extent. I'm a good Jamai boy, if I'm honest.
So he says.
No, I am. You can ask my mother-in-law. She likes me much more than she likes her own son, I think, with my eating of fish, etc. But the Bengalis need to talk more about Bengali vegetarian food. They only talk about non-vegetarian food, which pales in context of the vegetarian or the vast variety of vegetarian dishes within this incredible state. It's almost kind of like dismissed, like, oh, we like our kosher mangsho, we like our... But realistically, if you ask me personally, I think it's possibly the best vegetarian cuisine if we talk about cuisines in the country, but no Bengali will talk about it. It's always dismissed. Something that everybody eats at home. Things like dokas, things like a lovely chena kofta is much nicer than any other like kofta that you'll possibly eat. Many more flavors. Obviously, that's me just kind of like having a finger at the Bengalis, never talking about vegetarian food as though it is a widow's food only, which is very, very sad, I think. But please talk about vegetarian food, much more in Bengal.
You've answered my question before I asked it. So that was Bengali cuisine. And I'm going to end, before I ask Usha to sing a song, with a statement that's here, that's so relevant to Sunita and food. Delectable cuisine must please the eye as well as excite the palate. And good designers and architects, she's written, have the gift of an inner eye, which helps them to visualize projects to the last detail. Similarly, good cooks also have a visual sense of food in their head. How important is that?
I think it's absolutely integral to good cuisine. This, and as Lawrence Durrell said, the literary hero of one's youth, he also wrote, apart from, of course, the Alexandrian Quartet and everything else that he wrote, he also wrote the preface to a book by Marcel Roof called The Passionate Epicure. This book came out in 1924. I found it in my mother's bookshelf. And as I said, that we as a family, we read, but we also read cookbooks, we also read the atlas, we also read the dictionary. So as long as we were reading. And I came across this book with Lawrence Durrell having done the preface to this first novel on cuisine. And there he said that a recipe is a culinary word painting. Cookery is the art of taste, as painting is the art of sight and music that of hearing. So he continued to say food is a universal language, a therapeutic language of love and an expression of it, what you said. So I think food has to look delectable. I mean, that's I'm not saying it's my particular observation. That is, yes.
So just a quick 30 seconds, I think. So I think the whole world really, I mean, this is a great like conversation piece, I think. But we all kind of like scroll, and so many people just keep scrolling through recipe after recipe, and it's purely visual. Nobody's reading anything into that realistically. Beautiful, glossy cookery books with hundreds of pages of beautiful looking food, but please go back to the old school sense of buying cookbooks by great food writers. There have been some incredible food writers through history in India, in Europe, in America, that have written beautifully about periods in food, let's say, where people have, and go back to those. I mean, obviously James Beard springs to mind in America. My favorites, people like Jen Grigson, Elizabeth David. Those are people that I kind of like, as a young chef, always went to. There was no photographs in any of those books, but they were just great writing about food, about certain periods, and just beautiful to read, really.
Thank you so much, Shaun. You wanted to end.
No, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
That, I think it's not, this book has no photographs of anything, excepting a few vessels. But the best book on Italian food given to me by an Italian who's a good cook herself is by Marcella Hassan, and it doesn't have a single photograph. And there's a recipe in this book that our young grandson learned from Roald Dahl, the children's story writer, and it's of peanut butter chicken. And there's no photograph of it, but I think you become much more inventive.
His granddaughter's become a very famous kind of like cookery writer.
Yes.
I think what is wonderful is that, when you have recipes, I asked this question of Shaun yesterday. I said, what is it that makes it yours? Because there are some recipes that come down to you over the years, and it's wonderful that you pass it on, because that's the way you've learnt it from your mother, your grandmother. But a great cook will add a little twist, perhaps, use one different item that gives it a very distinctive taste. And that is something that makes that dish unforgettable and stand out. Now, there's so much we could have talked about in this book. It's fascinating. Sunita's talked about different utensils in different regions for different kinds of cooking. The way people eat, the dastarkhans, the thals on tables, banana leaves, but we'll have to have another session for that. And since we talked about making a recipe your own, in your very own way, we're going to end with Usha doing My Way. Will you? Yeah.
Yes, it's, even if you hadn't asked, I would have said, please let me sing a song. It's great talking about food, but yeah. Yeah, I know, it's really ridiculous. Hello, dear, please sit. I can't lose you at the last minute. Yeah? No, oh, you're coming in front, okay. Yes. 55 years of singing, and almost all of you have been part of it. So it's really fantastic to get an opportunity to sing in front of all of you. And AKLF has made it possible for me to say that really, with no compromise. Compromise actually is a bad word. You can, do a lot of things believing in yourself and believing in the fact that it's going to work. Yeah? And I've never ever thought of changing my look to suit the song. In fact, the first time I sang in Trinkas, my husband was there, and there were so many other people. The minute I was announced, Usha is coming on to sing, they all said, my God, what is this Amma going to do? So they were all shocked. And then when I came out with, never know how much I love you, yeah, they were, is that it? So it's been wonderful that you've allowed me to grow. I use the word allow because it means a lot. I would never have, when my people ask me, interviewers ask me, how does your husband help? I say, by not helping. And he's really allowed me to grow, just like all of you have. Allowed me to fly and do the things that I really want to do. And I'm so pleased to be here to say that I've done it my way. Thanks to all of you. Shundur, it's so beautiful to have you here in the audience, Shimantruda. And for me, Pooh, it means so much to say that the daughter of Hamid Sayani, the world's greatest, and inspired God knows how many RJs, and today they call them RJs and VJs and whatnot. So it's really wonderful that I could say that I started my career almost with Radio Ceylon. And yes, you've been my biggest inspiration. So I'd like to say thank you to all of you. This has been really a successful AKLF. And thank you for having me for the inauguration and the end, I hope. Ladies and gentlemen, huh? Anjum, of course. Without her, the dynamic, Anjum, so happy to be just in the background there, really. Marvelous, thank you. Samaresh and Rinta who are doing the sound in my track. Can I do my way? Can I do it for you? Yeah.
Yes.
And, all of them? Yeah.
After that, it's dinner. All ours.
Oh, okay. Supposing you had said no, I would still do it. My way. One more track. And now the end is near, and I must face that final curtain. My friends, I'll state my case, I'll say it clear, for this uncertain. I've lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway, but more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, they're too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step upon the byway, but more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew, but through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and stood it all. I faced it all, and I stood tall. I did it my way. I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing. And now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way. Oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and other words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blow, I did it my way. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Couldn't have
you.
a better sign-off for this
you
session
very much.
of Table Talk. It's all about doing it your
Thank
way,
you.
making it special, making it unforgettable.
So much, Usha. I have such an honor that you release my book, and Shaun, and Andrea, and thank you so much, Anjum, for inviting me.
Thank you for having all of us here, Ms. Anjum. Wonderful to be back at AKLF over and over again. Thank you so much. Good night.
Yes.
Shall we stand with the book?
Ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't have asked for a better ending to the AKLF 2025. Let us put our hands together, please. A huge round of applause. Thank you so much, Usha ma'am.
I like the way I walked off with that. Thanks, love.
Thank you.
There'll be a car to take us there. Usha, you're coming for dinner now?
I don't think she'll come. She probably better to go down the stairs.
Oh, take this. I don't need to walk up with this one.
Can I have one? Or do you want it back?
You can keep it.
I'll keep it. Yeah, there's just way too much to talk about food, that's all.
I know, yes.
Before we officially end AKLF 2025, I would like to thank our partners, refreshment partner Chabar, gifting partner Fleury's Beverages, radio partner 91.9 Friends FM, event partner Navkreet, hospitality partner Kenilworth Hotel, institutional partners Teachers Center, iLead, Calcutta Business School, festival partners The Park Kolkata, Glenburn Penthouse, Institute of France in India, Embassy of France in India, Alliance Française du Bengal, and session partners Oxford Junior Literary Festival, Teachers Center, Alliance Française du Bengal, Penguin Random House, Harvard University Press, HarperCollins, Westland, Neogi Books, Rupa Publication, Aleph Book Company, Speaking Tiger, Readomania, Rutledge, Jadavpur University Press, Jagannath, Bloomsbury, and Vitasta. Thank you and good night.